start, I do want to give a slight trigger warning. I'm going to talk a little bit about my pregnancy journey, but there's no type of loss that I'm going to talk about, and I'm not going to go into like great detail about it. But I just wanted you to know so that you can kind of, guard your heart, guard your mind. I know that sometimes when you hear something, it can cause a little distress, so I wanted to be mindful of that. However, by the time I'm done with this, I promise if you follow me, we're gonna leave here inspired, encouraged, and ready to go create. Can we do that? Yeah. All right, okay. So in 2015, I almost died. I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, and I had developed a rapid onset of HELP syndrome. Do not ask me what HELP stands for. I cannot pronounce all the medical words that is associated with that acronym. But for those of you who may be familiar with preeclampsia, HELP is like, we're in the South, we're in Alabama, it's like a kissing first cousin, okay? They are very closely related, so it has a little bit extra sass with it. And so, looking back on that day, I still don't fully understand what happened. But what I do know is that when I dreamed of becoming a mom, that particular part of my journey wasn't what I dreamed about. I remember vividly my organs trying to shut down, my blood pressure at stroke levels, and my vision was slowly fading, and I was fading. I recall sitting on the couch in my living room waiting for my husband to get ready and my sister. They were moving extremely slow that day, like really slow. And I was thinking like, well, this is how it all ends. And all I ever wanted, all I ever dreamed about was being a mom. And this dream was killing me. The only way to save my life was to give birth to my daughter. And so on June 25th, I gave birth to my oldest, my little girl, the one I prayed for, the one that I dreamed about. My dream of becoming a mom was finally realized. However, it almost cost me my life, but I made it. You see, I am a dreamer. I love to dream. I've been doing it since I was a kid. And when I dream, baby, I dream real big. So I'm going to share with you something I wrote as a child in 5th grade. As you can see, my handwriting was already popping at that age. And so this was my future life, and I actually shared this on my school visits with the kids, and I tell them how I wanted to go to UCLA Law School. And I wanted to be this criminal justice attorney. I don't know what all that meant, but that's what I was going to be. And I wanted to go with my best friend at the time, Monica, and I was going to charge people $50 to talk to me. There's a lot of money back in '94, so I was going to be rich, defending criminals for $50, and I was going to marry, well, before I even got to the marriage part, I wanted to have 3 kids. I wanted to have identical triplets, all girls. Again, delusional. And I was going to marry Willie Norwood Jr. Now, this is going to date me, but there are millennials in here, so if you know who Willie Norwood Jr. is, Ray J, we thank God that did not happen. And then there was some guy named Terry Willis. I don't know who Terry is, but apparently I had a crush on this little boy named Terry. And that was going to be my life. This was the life that I had dreamed of in 5th grade. And I wish I had more time to talk to you all about the power of actually writing out your dreams. Because little did I know that as a little black girl in Rialto, California, Southern Cal, that some of these dreams were going to get checked off. Uh-oh, my bad. I actually did go to law school, not to UCLA though, but I went to FAMU Law School. I did pass the bar, passed 2 bars on the first time, which was the Georgia bar and the Alabama State bars. I got married, but not to Ray J, thankfully. I married the principal. And I had those 3 kids, but not all at one time. Yeah. Close enough though, right? So I checked off some boxes, Now granted, if I may, without sharing my entire life story, I think some of my daydreaming probably was related a little bit to childhood trauma. My dreams served a way for me to transport the way that things were hurting me in a young age that I couldn't put into words, but I was able to take that pain and morph it into a world that I hoped I could live in one day. And so I allowed my imagination to run wild and free. And little did I know that imagining or dreaming or hoping or whatever it was that I was doing as a kid would be the fuel for the fire for me to go to the next level in my life. So, with the time I have left, I want to share another story with you all. So, I grew up in the church. My maternal grandmother, who I call Granny, was a praying woman. Y'all, she could pray heaven down, let me tell you. And when I was younger, I would just kneel next to her and I would just pray with her. I didn't know what she was praying about, but I would just sit there with my granny and I would just kneel and pray with her. And she is how I learned how to pray. But I am very convinced that she knows Jesus personally. I believe that right now in heaven, excuse me, that she is actually bossing him around and that she's actually running things up there with him. And so when I'm talking about praying, I'm talking about how I set my intentions, right? And for some of you may not pray, and that's okay, or you may not even believe in a higher power. But one thing we all share in common is that we all have dreams. We all have hopes, we all have desires, and that's the thing that binds us together. And so as we're sitting in this writers' conference and we're thinking about the dreams that we have for this author career, our creative careers, that's what we're thinking about in this moment when we're talking about rekindling the magic. And so there's a character in the Bible that I love, his story. His name is Joseph. If you know anything about Joseph, Joseph was a big, big dreamer. You know, that's the one with the Technicolor coat, the rainbow coat back in the day. That's him. And so he was like us in this space. He was a dreamer. And he didn't dream small, friend. He dreamed real big. And we're going to talk about some of those dreams. So, believe it or not, there are some lessons we can learn from my dear brother Joseph. And I like to share those 3 things with you. And I hope that these things are something you can carry with you on your creative journey. So first of all, the first thing we want to do that we learn from Joseph is guard your dreams. So Joseph had 11 brothers. And one day they were outside and was working. Joseph, he was young. Joseph was like 16, 17, so he was a little immature. But he told his brothers, like, you know, hey y'all, I had this dream, right? And we was out there, we was getting the wheat, we was gathering it. Y'all know what happened? My wheat came in the middle, and then y'all wheat bowed down before me. Like, and they were looking at him like, what you saying, man? Like, what are we talking about here? And so they gave him a little side eye. Like, that was the first dream, because, you know, you get one. But then, you know, he wasn't done. He told him on another day, he's like, you know, the sun, the moon, the stars, you know, everything, you know, was around me. It was like 11 of y'all. And y'all bowed down to me again. Isn't that funny? And they was like, all right, at this point, his brothers are pissed off at him. Okay? Rightfully so, because what are you saying, little boy? And so I think Joseph was a bit wild for that. You know, I would not have approached that in the same manner as him. But notwithstanding all of that, we have to be careful who we share our dreams with. We all have people in our lives who love and care for us, but let's be honest, they don't really understand this creative journey that we're on. They don't get us all the time. And so my kids, they go to play therapy, and I remember the receptionist telling me, we were just talking about the things that I do, and I was telling her that, you know, she's like, what kind of work do you do? I said, well, I'm an attorney. I do intellectual property, and she's like, oh, okay, cool. I said, but I'm gonna close my law firm because I wanna focus on writing full time. And Miss Georgia looked at me in my eyes and she said, oh, baby, you're not from around here, are you? And I was like, okay. And so I just laughed because, you know, she's a hater. But anyway, but I knew what she meant, and what she was saying to me was, are you really about to stop being a lawyer to just go be a writer? And so like Joseph, I have big dreams. I still have big dreams. I dream about being on a big stage one day. I dream about maybe writing a book. I dream about being a singer. I really, really wanted to be a singer. And I really wanted to be the next Brandy. Y'all know who Brandy is? Yeah. So I wanted to be Brandy. She was my all-time favorite singer. And I remember, my mom is here, so I get to have a confessional. I ran up my mama's phone bill, and you know, back in the day, you have to have like, you know, calling card to call long distance. And so I would call the record labels out in New York, and I would be like, can I please speak to somebody? Can I just sing for you over the phone? And I mean, I was running up this phone bill, but finally, somebody at Atlantic Records let me sing for them. It's the same record label that Brandy was signed to, and I got to sing for them, and the man told me my voice was beautiful, y'all. I was like, thank you so much, sir. And so he was like, I need a demo. So at 13, I pulled out my boombox. Y'all remember those? I got that tape. I put it in there and I recorded myself singing. And I was singing my heart out and I sent it to New York and I put that thing in the envelope, mailed it off with my hopes, my dreams, my heart was all in this tape. Only to discover that what I actually needed was a quality demo, actually a CD. And so having a single mom, any money that came into that house was not funding my hopes and my dreams, but had to fund the bills that needed to be paid to keep the food on the table and a roof over our head. And so eventually, that dream slowly died. I thought I wanted to write. I didn't know if I was going to be an essayist or a journalist, a picture book author. I didn't know what I was going to be. I just knew I wanted to write. And then my journal got violated. And not like regular violated, like photocopied. There was a family meeting about the words that I had written in this journal of mine where I was name calling. I dropped some big names, y'all. I was cussing a lot. But it was in my personal space that I worked out whatever anger issues I was having at 16 years old. And listen, I don't have teenagers yet. My kids are about to be 5, 7, and 9. Okay, but I know what I was like as a teenager. And so if you have teenage girls, I pray for you. Because it's a lot. And so because of that violation though, my writing got stunted. And for the longest time, I didn't write. And so another dream felt like it was taken from me. And one of the best ways I will say, even though my journal got violated, is to still write your dreams down. We are, after all, writers, we're illustrators, we're creatives. And so not everyone needs to be invited to your dreams. It ain't for them, it's for you. And they're your dreams. And so you don't need anyone's approval for the dream that you have. So if you want to be a Caldecott, I want to be a Caldecott award winner. I don't draw pictures at all, but I still want to be one. But if that's what you desire, if you want to be a New York Times bestseller, if you want to win awards, whatever the dream is, it is your dream. Write it down, put it up, and be mindful because not everybody moves with the same integrity that you move with. So go crazy with your dreams. Have fun. Be as delusional as I was to think I was going to marry Ray J. And when you share your dream with certain people, keep in mind, these are the dreams that kept you up all night. These are the ones that you can't stop thinking about throughout the day. People will remind you that you should stop dreaming, that you're better off looking for that sensible thing to do, something safe. Don't allow other people's fears or insecurities take root within you. Full stop, period. Folks who have not taken any real risk or have been burned have a funny way of projecting their negative energy onto others. So believe me, I know I've been there, and in my case, I became an attorney. Something sensible, something safe, and that could bring in income. And being an attorney meant I was doing something great, something safe, and yes, and something I could check off this dream list of mine. But still, what did that cost me? And so as you sit down and you ask yourself, what is that sensible thing that you've been doing? Because if you're anything like me, there's an itch that you can never quite reach, which leads me to my next point. Delayed dreams aren't denials. So going back to our main character, Joseph. So as you can imagine, after he shared this last dream about the sun, the moon, the stars all bowing down to him, his brother was like, we're gonna kill him. This is the best way to just get rid of him. We're just gonna kill him. So you have to be very careful about the dream killers in your life, and that's something for another day we can talk about. But instead of killing him, they sold him into slavery. And I'm pretty sure this was not, when Joseph was dreaming about them bound down, how he envisioned this part of his life happening. But that's usually what happens when we have dreams. We map out our journeys in our head with nothing but rainbows, roses, and unicorn parts. And so for me, I thought I could just focus on being a wife, a mom, being a friend, being a daughter. If I can keep my eyes on the prize and build out this stellar legal career, basically, if I focus on everything but the thing that brought me joy, then I'll be okay. Because eventually this dream that I had as a child is gonna go away. Because by now, it should have happened, because it should be easy, right? Have you ever felt that way? Where your inner child is begging to come out and play again. because hey, the street lights are not on just yet. There's still some life in you, and if you can just get to the part of your life before the lights go out, then maybe you can experience whatever that it is for you. But it's during this time in our land of delay that we are actually building towards our dreams. We don't often realize that because our focus is all over the place with everyday life. However, we're attending writing conferences, meeting other creatives, jotting down ideas, slowly building. And so how many of y'all heard of Kwame Alexander? Y'all, okay. So y'all know who Kwame is, okay. So he talks about the book Crossover. I know if y'all ever heard his story about what happened with the crossover. And so he was with an agent, and this agent sold some other books, and he gave him Crossover, and like, hey, I really think this is ready to go. Like, let's just get it out there in the world. The agent played him, and was like, sure, cool. And so put it to the side. So for about a year, Kwame sold him some other books, and he circled back around and asked him, hey, whatever happened to Crossover? Did we hear anything back? And the agent told him, yeah, I never submitted it. I never put it out. Now, obviously, he fired that agent. But could you imagine somebody who's supposed to be in your corner, rooting for you, not doing their part, and snatching something from you? Now, spoiler alert, Crossover is on Disney Plus, and so I think Crossover has done quite well.
They want to do
course,
that.
and run so he's out here doing well. So dream delays are not denials. And so timing is everything. And it's important that we don't start to compare our journey to other people's journeys. Y'all are on Twitter, as whatever it wants to be called. Stay off of there if you cannot handle people's announcements, because you're going to see an announcement on there, and it's so easy to get discouraged when you see somebody's social media post to say, I'm so happy to share that I'm now read by. Oh, look here, I have a book. Like, listen, I've been there. I know I was in them query trenches as well. And it starts to weigh on you, even with your best intentions, to want to celebrate people. But you cannot help but wonder, when will it be my turn? When will somebody love my work? When will they fall in love with my voice? But let me tell you, we all start at the bottom. I think Drake has a song called Started at the Bottom, Now We're Here. And none of us are overnight success. Nobody. So the fact that we're sitting here together at this writer conference puts us all ahead of the game. And this is the season that we are going to create connections, we're going to hone our craft, and we're going to build our confidence. So y'all remember 2020, right? Yeah. Wild times. And I remember thinking the shutdown was going to last for about 2 weeks, tops, like max, right? And so the next thing I know, though, I'm at home with my husband and my 3 kids, and I'm thinking, oh, we are a real family for real. Okay. And like for real. So but 2 weeks turned into 2 months, and 2 months turned into, however long it turned into. But it was during the lockdown that things really started to happen. People were dying, people were losing jobs, people couldn't work. And as the young folks say, life was lifing. But with the world stopping, it gave me a moment to think about some things. So for me, 2020 was the year that I started to be a bit selfish. I started to take back some autonomy. Because before I became a wife, a mother, or an attorney, I had big dreams. So I did something while on family vacation. I got my nose pierced. You do not see my nose ring no more because my son, in all his graciousness, popped it out my nose. The second time I had it pierced, and it hurt. And so I just said, it's not meant to be. And so I probably had a midlife crisis at 36 at that time. And so, but that itch I spoke about earlier was now becoming very uncomfortable. And so in 2020, I decided to try writing again. Because a few years back, I had written my first adult romance novel just to check it off this list, right? And I did my first major speaking engagement. That wasn't even on the list, but it felt great to say, oh, I did it. So dream accomplished, right? But not even close. So something was still nagging me, call it intuition, call it gut feeling, I call it Holy Spirit, but either way, there was a still small voice saying, the lights haven't come on yet. There's still time to come outside and play. So I started playing a little bit more. I gave Twitter one more chance and jumped into the writing community. And I found a little group called Black Creators and Kidlit. Y'all know who that is? Yeah. And I met some of my best friends on Twitter. And I started writing more. I finally submitted my work to agents. And I stopped letting fear talk me out of my dreams. Which leads me to my last point. Dreams turned reality. So quickly wrapping up our friend Joseph, went through a lot before he got to his dreams that he told his brothers about, the one that they're gonna bow down to him one day. So after being sold into slavery, he got imprisoned. And while there, he ran into a couple of guys who also had some dreams, and Joseph could interpret dreams. So he interpreted these dreams for these guys and told them, hey, you're gonna die, and you're actually gonna live and go back and live in the palace with Pharaoh. Cool. But when you get to the palace, remember me. So the guy forgets him, because that's what happens. People will forget you. Like, they'll be like, oh, thank you so much, God bless you. And then they go about their lives. But at the right time, Joseph was remembered. And so Pharaoh had some dreams, and he was like, I don't know what to do with these dreams. And the guy who he told was gonna live said, hey, I know a guy, he's in jail still. He can interpret your dreams, because he said, what my dream was, and it happened in the way that he said. And so Pharaoh called him out and told him, his dreams, and Joseph interpreted those dreams for him. So Joseph's dreams, they came true. His brothers did come back around. They did bow down. But it took him almost 15 years for that dream that he had as a young boy, the one he was telling his brothers about, ever so recklessly. It was reckless, y'all. You got to be holding him accountable. It was reckless. However, it was true. They were gonna bow down. But it took that time, 15 years. So we all know the stats when it comes to publishing. We all know that publishing can be a little bit demoralizing, okay? We know 1% or whatever it is. We know the stats. And we are aware that everyone won't make it. However, we still gonna show up. Because eventually it will happen. That all the obstacles that were placed in our way, that we had to get there, all serve some type of purpose. And how do I know this? Because it happened for someone like me. I finally did get an agent. I finally did sell some books. And I finally started to live out my dreams. I decided to step into the fullness and do the thing that I was created for. Because what I just realized was that I had kids, and that was fine, but they didn't stop my purpose. My love for writing came back to me. And every time I opened up a blank page, I fall in love all over, again and again. I could not have been a writer, though, back in my early teens, late teens, early 20s, not even in my early 30s. Because writing the way that I do now is one of a lived life. And God willing, I still have a lot more living to do. But I'm grateful for my babies. Because of them, I reconnected with my first love, writing, which led me to discover authors like myself, both in the children and adult space. I also discovered I'm actually funny, like really funny, and I won't do like a stand-up show. Like I won't be on Netflix anytime soon, so that's not it. But I can actually write funny stuff that make people laugh out loud. I can write things that make people sad, mad, or any other emotion I want them to feel, all with my big imagination. And so I do these things to remind all of us, especially my mamas, that we can do this. We all wear so many hats, and I want to remind you to put on the hat that brings you joy. Find it. Don't compare yourself to others, because the person on that journey has their own set of problems. I promise you. Focus on you. The journey is so worth it. Just stay the course, friend. Try not to take the feedback you're going to receive from agents, editors, or critique partners to heart. Listen with an open heart, however, but ultimately trust yourself. You are the creator. You know what you wrote. You know what you drew. Trust yourself. Take courses that will sharpen your craft. I am forever a student, and I adore my critique partners because I am here now, and this is only the tip of the iceberg for me. So I ask you, what about you? Tell me, what's your dream? What's that one thing that you told that person and they robbed you of it because they couldn't see it? They told you it was dumb, it made no money, it made no sense, it's not gonna work. But I promise you, you can start the business even though nobody in your family has done it. You can become financially independent and free. You can stop traumas and you can pass down generational blessings and generational wealth. You can pass down healing. You can write or draw the book. You can show your little ones what it is to dream again and what it looks like to accomplish them. And when it's time for the street lights to come on at the end of your life and it's time for you to come back home, you can know that you played your heart out and you gave your life all you got and left nothing on the table. And it all started because you had a dream and decided to take a chance on you. Best bet ever. Thank you.